Hey guys, welcome back to another Gaming Memories video. Here we are taking a look at a Japanese racing game by the name of, if I can pronounce this correctly, Meisha Retsuden. That was actually released in Japan for the PlayStation 1 back in 1997. So it is actually a racing game, but the emphasis is on the likes of the cult classic Japanese cars that were released and that were made famous back in the likes of the late 60s, early to mid 70s. You had actually got access to quite a number of different branded cars, anything from the likes of Datsun to Honda, Isuzu, Mazda, even Mitsubishi, and then obviously Toyota. So mainly there was more kind of like Toyota branded cars in the game compared to some of the other type of cars that were made available. Like you had the 1968 Datsun Fairlady 2000, there was the 1966 Honda S800. It's kind of like a small mini kind of convertible, more like type of what's known as a K-Cow. It's kind of very similar to that style. It may not actually be a K-Cow, but it is kind of reflective of those type of cars from that time period, because again it was very tiny. You also had different kind of other type of cars like the Mazda Familia. You actually had the 1970 Mitsubishi Colt Galant GTO. You even had the 1970 Nissan Bluebird. You even had an early version of the Skyline, one of the first Nissan Skylines also. And you actually had a number of Toyota offerings, the likes of the Toyota 1600 GT5, the Toyota Sports 800, and then the iconic and classic Toyota 2000 GT. So the game primarily gives access to different game modes, anywhere from likes of single player races to the likes of time trials, and even likes of a campaign where you could actually race through different race types and even unlock different cars throughout the course of your playthrough. Each car in the game is reflective of the actual car from that time period, and the handling characteristics and also the stats and like the speed, acceleration and so forth are all reflective of those cars from that era. Some are a lot more quicker to use and easier to use than others, and you'll see that throughout the course of gameplay. Now the tracks primarily in the game are all based around like famous GT style like racing tracks that were famous in Japan. So the premise of the races is pretty much that you're racing around those type of tracks, all with the emphasis really on classic car racing. As we all know, the likes of classic cars are actually like a big thing, and especially more so in years over the last couple of years with the likes of car restoration, car shows and so forth. The likes of all these iconic classic cars that are even being imported from Japan and the like, that they're so iconic that people are actually looking for them now to restore them and to just kind of have them as collector's editions, because they are going for quite big money and they're highly sought after. So this game is kind of like a reflective idea on the likes of that kind of lifestyle, or niche as you would say. As not only do the people like collecting classic cars, they also do hold like different race events like throughout the year at different points and different tracks all across the world, where they do actually race a lot of these classic cars on actual race tracks to compete against each other, especially like in different classes, different like speed classes, power output classes and the like. Having actually spent a little bit of time actually playing this game, I actually have been enjoying it. It's just kind of like different to play a different type of racing game that doesn't just focus on the likes of modern style race cars, that they actually focus on the likes of the older generation and the older classic cars, which is actually a nice kind of like thing, and it is very reflective of the likes of that vibe of era as well, because not too many games that you see out there, especially back in those days on the PlayStation and the earlier consoles, that you've seen many games actually focus on the likes of older style cars. They always kind of focus on the more popular style kind of vehicles at that time. So it is actually quite refreshing to play something a wee bit different. Plus the fact is as well, I myself personally didn't even know this game, and like a lot of other classic games or racing games on the PlayStation even existed in Japan. So I'm actually getting to experience a lot of them now, and some of them are actually really good. They're actually way better than I ever actually thought possible. Some of them, I will admit, some of them probably aren't as good, but they're still worth the playthrough just to experience them. But so far from the ones I actually have been playing, I actually have been enjoying them. And this one here actually is quite enjoyable. The graphics are actually quite good and decent. The car models themselves are actually quite good as well. Like overall, it's actually a nice little package, and it is definitely something worth playing, especially if you're into racing games. But even if you're just into like playing like driving like older classic cars, or even just to get an idea of what those old classic cars from Japan were actually like back in the day, because there is some iconic gems that actually are worth the weight in gold pretty much like today. With the likes of the Toyota 2000 GT, there was also actually a star in an early Bond movie from way back years ago, and it's one of the most iconic cars primarily to be released in Japan, because it was actually created as a competitor to the likes of classic sports cars and brands like the Jaguar and so forth from the likes of the European regions back in the day. The car itself now, there's not too many of them around in this day and age, so if you can actually manage to get your hands on one, and especially a good one, you will pay thousands. In some cases, some of them are actually going for nearly like probably a couple of million at this stage, because they're so sought after, and people will pay a high price just to get their hands on them. So a lot of these cars are in this game. This may be your only chance to ever actually get to play them or see them in the flesh, if you will, and to experience them, because you don't see too many of them around. So this game definitely is worth looking into if you're into the likes of your old classic like 60s, 70s Japanese style race cars. It might be worth actually having a go and see what you think for yourself. So I'd love to know your thoughts on this game. Did you even know it existed, and if so, did you manage to play it, and what are your thoughts on it? Did you enjoy it? Be sure to share it down in the comments below. So if you have enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like. Also be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to be updated of future videos, as I am going to be exploring a lot more of these old iconic classic Japanese style racing games from back in the day, and sharing my thoughts and experiences with everyone. So as always, make sure to keep playing those classic games and enjoying them, and keep those gaming memories alive.